Okay, what we have today for you for a presentation, most of you have probably heard of the Guardian movie. A month or so ago, the mayor asked me to sit in with Venus and I think a couple of other people that were there to see what the city of Oakland could do to get involved. And needless to say, I don't know how to stop. I kept right on going. Mm-hmm. And I'm deep in it right now in doing it. We're going to have a full showing on the 29th at the West Oakland Center. The invitation is inside of your agenda. But Venus's mother was a victim. Mm. And I know how that feels to be a victim. She has worked tirelessly. Every time I turn on my computer, she's out there talking to somebody. There's somebody beneficial that's helping with her. And we're hoping that from this screening that we can be more involved to assist wherever we can. Okay? So at this time, I'm going to bring Venus Gist to the stage. Richard is his name. I was trying to remember your name, Richard.
You got it right.
I got it right that time, huh?
If you're familiar with the documentary The Guardians, I don't know if it's worth playing.
Excuse me, you'll need to speak into the mic. And there's the stand behind you. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We're glad to be here. Thank you for having us. Just appreciate Ms. Stadmeyer for just looking at the possibilities that we can not just complain about a situation, but transform it and pray about it and make a difference here in our community. And if we can cause change here, we can cause it in the world, in other places. So that's what I'm excited about. Richard is going to tell you a bit about the Guardians. I'm going to let him start. Linda Cancun, she's Cancun. Richard Calhoun is his name. Linda Kincaid is his partner that couldn't be here this morning because she took ill.
Oh.
But we all work closely together regarding the abuse and neglect of our elderly and dependent adults throughout the court systems, not only in Alameda County, but throughout the whole United States of America. So I'm going to let him share what we're about to present here in the Guardians.
On the Guardians, I think what I'd like to do is just start with a 4-minute clip. It really summarizes the whole issue, and then we can have a more in-depth concession. So it's all lined up. I'm going to press the play button, and we'll be back in 4 minutes.
Okay.
It's a small little town, and they all know what's going on.
This is corruption at so many levels.
There's more to this than meets the eye. It needs a master, and I mean a master investigation.
They don't play fair at all. And that's what I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to fight.
I want people to know it can happen to you. Something was wrong, and my gut told me somebody took my parents. I don't know who it is, but somebody took my parents.
I mean, how do you react when you've been told that in Las Vegas, the elderly are being systematically and fraudulently declared as incompetent and forced into guardianship? All of a sudden and without warning, their lives, their finances, and their health care are being controlled by a private guardian appointed by the family court that's supposed to protect them.
Just like that. My whole life was shattered.
It's been on record that it's $47 trillion are about to change hands from the elderly to their children.
When somebody is given guardianship of you by the court, in essence, they become that person.
And then have access to all of their bank accounts, all of their retirement funds.
Stocks, bonds, will, everything.
Instead of wealth passing down through the generations of families, we're seeing wealth passed down through the guardian.
Someone could knock on my door, take me away, and walk off with everything that I own.
They took my house, they took my car, they took $41,000 out of my bank account.
They stole everything. Everything was empty.
My mom is not dead. They were auctioning off her clothes.
That is so scary.
It's an absolute conspiracy. This is a perfect example of what a conspiracy is, because one or two people could not do this on their own. This is racketeering.
This is a multi-million-dollar business in which everyone's getting a piece of it.
Lawyers, private guardians, home health agencies.
I fought with her. I said, I'm not going. I started crying. I said, I'm not going anywhere. Who are you?
I literally was kidnapped from my own home, drugged before I got to a hospital, asked them where I was, and they said, you're on the 6th floor in the psych ward.
They hold me like criminal.
This is truth that's stranger than fiction. How is this happening? We have authorities, we have government that is supposed to protect us, but yet it's the government that's participating in the harm that's being done.
As soon as my mother became a ward of the state, all her health issues started up. It's the industry of slow death. I can't explain how they do it because it's illegal, but they do it.
Don't you know this is the United States of America, that people have their civil and constitutional rights?
And you guys fucking killed my mother.
And I can think to myself, well, if that was my story, which it isn't, how would I react? Would I be able to control my temper? I think I'd be in prison right now that it had happened to my parents.
You touch my mother and you move her, I'm going to take the bat and I'm going to beat the hell out of you.
You've got to keep the light shining on the people that are being taken.
People go in, corpses come out. I was hoping so much for her to come home.
Everything they've been doing for the last 30 years is about to be exposed.
It must be stopped. It must be revealed. And it must be revealed today.
The perpetrators are starting to be cornered, and they're starting to act strange.
It's scarier and scarier. What's going on? We got to fix it.
We're going to get this mess cleaned up.
Reveal this.
Wow. Richard's going to pass out some notes that were put together for today. And let me ask the question. How many of you in the audience, how many of you were familiar with this, have heard of this before? Just raise your hands. How many? Okay. How many? Let me see the hands just to see that this is new information. Raise your hands. This is new information. Okay. So 2 people, it's new information. Okay. Well, every time I look at the trailer here, you know, it just impacts my heart I understand why the gentleman said I want to take a bat and, you know, of course we can't do that, but, you know, taking a bat isn't going to solve anything, and you feel like it though. And what I experienced was my mother almost losing her life under the care of a conservator named Michelle Tiernan. And, you know, I'm learning I'm working towards the forgiveness, you know, because I have to get there, and I'm working on it. So pray for me, because I don't want to be angry at her or the judges or the attorneys, even though we know that they're in collusion and it is racketeering and it is about the money. But if we can somehow change the heart and the system, then it would be a beautiful blessing. My mom was conserved, and I'm not going to go into a long story, but she was conserved. I went in for conservatorship. There was family conflict, and that's usually how they get in. And with the family conflict, I thought I was going to get conservatorship. You know, I didn't think I wouldn't, because my mother needed more care. And I didn't get conservatorship. They gave it to a temp conservator. And she didn't make the best choices for my mother. And my mother began to decline and deteriorate. And then I began to be, I guess, I wasn't ever restricted yet, but it was coming. But there were things that I wanted to do, like make sure my mother had a good diet. Well, she wasn't going to allow that. And they want total control over the ward. And it's our mother, it's our family member. Who knows you better than your family member?
Right.
But I thought the court would be supportive. That's why I went to them. I had all the, the exhibits and everything laid out for her to get the proper care she needed and what was going on in her family. And it didn't happen. So on February 14, 2018, my family did come together and we took my mother out of the facility against the court order. I thought about it, I pondered, I prayed, I even talked to, there's a education or course that I'm involved with called the Landmark Worldwide. You may have heard of it. You've heard of it? Yeah. And I've done the work. I've been involved in their courses. And I did make a call that day to get support and prayed about it. And ended up taking my mother out 2 days later with my father and my sister. We joined together. God put us together in just enough time to get her out. We didn't know if we were going to go to jail. We didn't know if we were going to get sanctioned. But we took her out and took her home. And went back to court, and the judge dropped the case with prejudice. It was in the newspaper, the Oakland Post, and my mother's alive. When basically they told me she only had 3 months to live. They were going to put her on hospice. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's not going to die. But that's what they do. And she's 85 years old. 2 years later after they sentenced her to death. There's more to it. I'm going to let Richard speak now, and we'll be speaking back and forth in regards to the notes and answering your questions. But I just wanted to give you an idea of why we started this work, why it's important to us, and why we don't want it to happen to any of you. And we're taking a stand, and we want the whole Northern California to know, and we wanted to travel out to Southern California, which we have advocates there. We're advocates. And then we wanted to go across the whole United States, which it is, and we're joining together. So, Richard, here you go. You can take it from here.
The question that might be on your minds foremost is, how is this happening? And it's a pretty simple demonstration. We all know about the motor vehicle code. You go speeding through a red light, you get lights behind you, you get a ticket. You may get in a car accident, you go speeding, you get a ticket. They have a penalty for every section of the motor vehicle code, so we follow the motor vehicle code. The probate code does not have a single penalty for violating it. So all the protections that we have in our California probate code, which is one of the best in the country, are completely ignored by our court system. These conservatorships where they hand over the complete control to a paid stranger happen in 3 minutes. How do you have any evidence, let alone a jury trial, in 3 minutes? Until people start realizing that the courts do not follow the law, which is what the legislature assumed, which is why they didn't put the penalties on, this is going to happen to everybody all the time. My story is a little different than Venus. We were dumb. We followed the law. We did not kidnap Linda's parent. She died. She was sexually assaulted by the caregiver for over a year, repetitively. Went through the ER at Kaiser. ER Kaiser never reported the sexual abuse because they weren't told by the sexual predator that he was abusing her. And that was what they said on their testimony in Southern California. A 7-month jury trial got a 10-2 verdict. Then the judge called a mistrial while they were deliberating how much money we were going to get compensated for the abuse of my mom and my mother-in-law's last 3 years of her life. That is a system that we're under. Sounds pretty bad, but you know what? Everyone here can make a huge difference. Right now, I've had several bills through the state legislature, and I'm getting smarter. Right now, last year we did SB 1191, and that's one place where you guys could really help out right here in Oakland PD, is get them to update their police policy. If they update their police policy, they have to comply with SB 1191 that Senator Wieckowski introduced from 2018, which became part of Penal Code 368.53, C3, I believe. And what it requires them to do is define in their policy what elder abuse is, and that it's a crime. Because right now in this city that you have control over through the mayor's office, your Oakland PD will not take police reports on elder abuse. Linda and myself have been trying to report elder abuse since 2014. It's occurring to this day since 2012, and they will not take a police report. It's not that they don't have, we disagree with the outcome of the report, they won't even take the report to investigate. And that's a huge problem because abuse is a crime. Even more global than that, look at the state of California. What do they tell you to do when you see abuse? They tell you to call Adult Protective Services if the person is in the community. If the person's in a facility, they tell you to call the long-term care ombudsman. If a bank robbery is happening, they tell you to call law enforcement. Elder abuse is a crime. We should be calling law enforcement for these abuses. We should not be calling social services, especially in facilities. Those are people that are trained for all of 32 hours. Most of them are unpaid volunteers. And at the federal level, they have confidentiality. So if they go in and see abuse that is told to them versus seeing it physically on injury on a person, they're not allowed to report to law enforcement. So here in the state of California, we're telling the community, report abuse, suspected abuse to ombudsmen. The ombudsmen go in and confirm the abuse is going on in their mind and are not allowed to report to law enforcement. And that's exactly what happened to my mother-in-law's case. The ombudsman got the reports from us over and over and over again, went out, substantiated, believed abuse was going on, but was not allowed to talk to law enforcement to tell her concerns. That's the problem that we currently have. A little bit more on notes. Another thing right now, not as a committee because there's not enough time, but each one of you go research SB 303 right now, again through Senator Wieckowski. The only person opposing this, and it's out of Venus Gist's mom's case, is the California Judicial Council. They're supposed to make sure the law is uniformly enforced. They're not supposed to dictate what the law is, but they're opposing it. And all it's supposed to do in SB 303 is say that protected assets, such as your personal residence and your welfare check, stay protected. Federal law also already limits how much money can go out of your Social Security number to pay anybody other than the person that's supposed to benefit. And I believe the number is 10% of the check or $47, whichever is greater. Yet in Venus's mom's case, which started SB 303, they were taking 100%. The IRS is only allowed to take 15%. That is how blatant the laws are violated in our probate court. In the Guardians, it's called family court. Here it's called probate court. So, and it just goes on. And the other thing we were doing in SB 303 that came on later is the personal principal residence. They want to make sure that the conservator considers the tax ramifications and the health care ramifications of selling someone's house. Because if you now sell the house, it goes from a protected asset to an unprotected asset, and if it's gone up in value, you may have several $100,000 in capital gains tax you have to pay. Now you have money in the bank that disqualifies you for a lot of the health care benefits. The court is fighting that requirement. A fiduciary already has that requirement. So what the courts are basically doing is fighting what they already should be doing, and that's a problem. So, and it doesn't take many people. Liz Figueroa is one of my favorite senators from years back. She said if she got 3 letters from constituents that appeared to be unrelated, she would likely change her vote on a controversial issue. Petitions don't matter. Mass mailings don't matter. It's the individual person that senator conveyed to me made a huge difference, and I find out that throughout the state of California. You know, you think, how can you pass a law? I think I have 6 on the books already now since 2013. I'm getting smarter. I haven't gotten anyone to put in penalties yet, but you also don't have a lot of control, and you have to go with it. Venus's bill that's in there, SB 303, it wasn't even on the list of the 27 that I was trying to get through, but it was the one that the senator was willing to do, so that's the one we went with, and that's the kind of thing you have to be flexible on. So how do you solve this? We have absolute power. Imagine yourself being a real estate broker, and that is my trade, and I take control over a client's property and I sell it, and the client's unhappy with my job and sues me. I now get to use that client's money to defend my bad actions. That is what a conservator gets to do. They don't have E&O insurance. The state of California started a Reform Act in 2006. Last time I looked, that was 13 years ago. It was a result of the exposure the LA Times did of very respectable media in 2005. Guess what? They're words on paper. The legislature in the last 13 years still has not funded those acts. So the interviewing with family that's in our probate court does not happen. They charge the estate to do it, but they don't do it because they're not required to do it because they were never given the funding they demanded. So in 13 years, we've identified what the problems were, came up with a solution, but we're sitting on our hands saying we don't have the money to protect our elderly. And I don't think people know that. And part of the problem is with term limits, which I support, is all the people that were in this legislation in 2006 are term limited out. So nobody even knows this mandate was passed based on media coverage, is still unfunded. And that's a huge problem. You know, and I don't even know where to go. And here in Alameda County, you have something very unique. And it actually started out, from what I can tell, as a very good system. Legal Assistant for Seniors. It was formed right here in Oakland. It was housed in Oakland. It's still housed in Oakland. In 2008, they got a very unusual law of the court, rule of the court passed. If you have money, LAS has to be assigned by the court to be your court-appointed attorney. If you don't have money, they dump you off on the public guardian. That is a shift in taxpayer revenue right there in itself. It's right in the local rules. And then when you have absolute control and you absolutely get anyone with money, guess what? You start abusing that power. Absolute power corrupts, absolutely. That's what's happening. Take a case that we got involved in 2012 that we brought to the Board of Supervisors in 2014 that they still have not addressed, Eleanor Ferretz. She's locked up, can't see anybody. Nice white lady, happened to be separated for decades from her husband, who lived in a different community, different county, with another woman. Catholic, didn't want to go to divorce. Her husband dies, so she marries the neighbor that was there. Had 2 psychological reports showing that she was sound mind. County public guardian stepped in and said, this isn't right. You don't marry someone 2 days after or 2 weeks after your marriage. Well, if you had a loving marriage, you're not going to do it. If you've been separated for 30 years and living your separate lives, you just might do that. And that doesn't even matter. The woman can't see anybody. You can't go and knock on the door and say, I want to see her. That's what we've been trying to report to the local police department. They won't take the police report that she's isolated. They go to the facility and do a welfare check. And they take the word of the administrator that she's okay, but she can't be seen by the officer because she's on an off-site haircutting appointment. The facility has a beauty salon. They don't take the residents off-site to have their hair cut. And the law enforcement officer isn't even smart enough to put 2 and 2 together. You know, what's it? Yeah. Okay. I'm fine.
Thank you, Richard. There's a lot of information, and I thank God for Richard and Linda because we've been walking the floors of the state capitol. They've been doing it for years. I'm learning so much. We proposed the bill, proposition, our Senate bill, should I say, 303, that has to do with properties. Not have to evaluate, just confiscating property and funds from, our elderly people. But I wanted to talk before we left about the Guardians, and we really are grateful for this film. This is when the community, the counties, states, other cities started to pay attention with this documentary film that came out at the film festival. For me, that's the first time I saw it in Mills Valley. And it was The Guardians by filmmaker and director, producer Billy Mintz. And he's a Jewish kid, he says, from Canada. And he did an investigation with a team of other people. A gentleman named Rick Black was involved in regards to what was going on in Las Vegas, Nevada, where they were taking the elderly out of their homes, again, with court orders, and taking their assets. Adult children didn't even have the rights to their parents. And those 2 ladies, Julie Belshey and Glenda, are real people we've met and we've talked to. Glenda, the Black American woman, is in Los Angeles. She's still working to get over it. And she's just beginning to heal a bit from losing her mother. Because like she said, it's a very slow death. And you can't do anything. You're helpless. They're giving them drugs. And they're in total control. So this film became our voice. We were so happy. And we started hosting films and getting our community to host films. Supervisor Nate Miley and Berkeley City Councilman Ben Bartlett stepped up to the plate as politicians and start having a voice, supporting our voices as advocates and victims. And Supervisor Nate Miley hosted a film in January, hosted The Guardians at the Board of Supervisors, private, with DA Nancy O'Malley's office, Public Defender's office. Richard mentioned Legal Assistant for Seniors and Social Services, Randy Morris. And we're still working on it. We're having a meeting this week. And if anyone can attend, please come. It's going to be at Supervisor Nate Miley's office on Thursday in Castro Valley at 3:00 p.m. You're welcome to come. And that meeting is going to continue from the screening we had in January, where we all had a public roundtable, with the people who attended. It's been a little slow getting the agencies together. Alameda County staff was invited. And we need your voices. We need to make a difference. We need to transform this. And why are judges able to have so much power and control to where it's to the demise of the ward, of the families? Why are they taking generational wealth instead of trying to work out the fees and the payments? How do you just plunder estates and rack up, like in Linda's case and Richard's case, they spent $2 million and got no justice, and her mom died because they abused her. Something's wrong with our human spirit, our human quality, what God created us to be and to do. So this film, we're hosting screenings. We had one with Supervisor Nate Miley. Berkeley City Councilman Ben Bartlett will be hosting one in the next couple of months. We're going to have like this probate, conference. Supervisor Nate Miley has a heart for seniors. So get that. And I really want to meet the mayor. We do. We want to meet the mayor. So if somehow you guys can get her, just take some time so we can see her face to face. I'm a face to face person. I like to go in, and the pastors, Pastor Bob, Pastor Tommy Smith of Palmacia Baptist Church, he hosted a screening at his church. I'm going in for Bishop Macklin. I've talked with him. I just got to, they're busy. They're busy, serving in the community. But we'll get to them. And there's going to be screenings. And however we can bring healing to this situation, because, I'm 58 years old. I don't want anybody taking what I've worked for from my children. And that's what they're doing. There's a lady named Rita Davis. Right now, she's been evicted out of her house by Alameda County. Judge Thomas Reardon, Kirsten Voiles, and Michael, I think his name is Esther Easter, is the conservative of her mom. And she's trying to fight. And so they want the properties. The properties are very valuable now. We paid $20,000 for them. Now they're worth $1 million. So we do have screenings coming up. I have here also Miss Antoinette, and she's been working closely with her in her organization called Warner Publishing. And she also has taken an interest in this because her organization, it revives seniors. It gives them new hope and new life. And that's what we want. People like her and Cynthia, I always say Cynthia Perry Elliott at Allen Temple. They're both Allen Temple members, and her organization is Care Alliance. So Miss Antoinette Warren here she's going to be hosting a documentary also, with a panel discussion. And she said you can call her at 510-936-1627, Warner Publishing, and the Alameda Care Alliance, which is with Cynthia, which is great. And they're going to be scheduling the show, this year. 2019, you said, or 2020, right, Antoinette? Okay. We're also having one to let you know. I know I have to go here. The Guardians. This is great. This came through the mayor's office. Thank you all. Miss Sylvia Statmeyer. It's going to be at the West. Let me see where I look at. West Oakland Senior Center there, 1724 Adeline Street, Oakland, California, at 3 p.m. The director over there is Jendea, and we're going to be showing the film. Please come out and see the film. You must see the whole movie. It's free. Bring as many people as you can. That's going to be August the 29th, Thursday. Okay. Oh, you got flyers. We have flyers on the table, too, and we also have some. Great. So please grab a flyer. That's Thursday, August the 29th, 3 p.m. All right. There's a lot of information in regards to this. I have some articles if you want to see what the articles were like in the Oakland Post with my parents. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us.
Do you have questions, comments?
Yeah, any questions or comments? Yes.
Tony.
I have one question. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Tomei.
Hi, Tomei.
I'm sorry, it's an ignorant question. I don't understand when you say conservatorship. Is that how all the people in the film that started that whole of them being removed or their belongings taken and things, or is there another level or layer of something else going on as well?
There is no other layer.
Go ahead.
There is no other layer in Nevada. It's called guardians and guardianship, which is why the movie's called The Guardians. In California, we're unique, and we call it conservatorship once you turn 18. It's guardianship for minors, conservatorship for anyone over 18. It's the same thing, but that is the first and only step. There is no effort. There's supposed to be an effort to do least restrictive intervention, power of attorneys. The courts have no penalty for not doing that, so they ignore it and go right to the conservatorship.
And so the problem that we see here, just so that you know, is oversight and no accountability with our public servants. So if we can work together and get our judges, Reuben Sundin was an attorney who was the conservator, who was the attorney over my mom's conservator. But now he's the commissioner in Berkeley. So, come on, that's conflict of interest. Sundin and Salinas was his attorney firm downtown Oakland, and they're the ones who threatened to sell my dad's property. But yet he's the commissioner. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying he's all bad, but it's kind of, ambiguous there. What's his mindset? What's his heart now? Nancy O'Malley, we went into her office to visit her, and she ordered an investigation. But as Richard knows, it was crickets. It kind of, when she got into office again, she was reelected, it was said that nothing that was occurring was criminal. But yet people are losing their lives. So we just need you to join with us to write. There's presiding Judge Wynn. Do you guys know of him? He's the presiding judge in Oakland, Judge Wynn Carville. And we've written letters to him. So I have a sign-in sheet, and if I can get your emails, we can keep you in the loop of what's going on. It's a lot of information. It's not going to happen in a day, or a month. But we just thank God for this opportunity to be here. Ms. Statmeyer, I know where to find her because I don't care where she goes. I'm going to always include her in this for years to come. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask now. Did you have one?
Well, excuse me, I have a comment. There's a huge amount of information here, and some of the things on this sheet concern me a lot. It says nonprofit legal assistance for seniors preys on wealthy seniors. I've referred people to legal assistance for seniors myself from time to time. There's a whole lot of information here that I personally need more details about. I don't know what the parallels are between the Nevada system and the California system, where they differ and where they're the same. I'd like to know whether the Las Vegas situation has any parallel in Alameda County. But as an attorney, I really like to look at the foundations of things and know what the law says and where it's being breached and all. I think that an investigation somehow needs to be impartial and needs to really address facts and not personalities, and that it would be useful for people to conduct and pursue such an investigation who don't have a personal stake in it. You both have heart-wrenching stories, and it's really hard, and it's really hard for you to be objective, and no one would expect you to be objective, and it's really hard for us to hear you talking and say, we can get behind that because we need the objective information first. So I think this is a first step towards our becoming aware of a situation that obviously we need to be aware of. But, just to go to the issue of conservatorship and all, I have a dear friend who has a grown son. He's pretty old now. He's mentally ill. He's drug dependent. He's homeless. He can't do for himself. And she's been tearing herself up for years trying to, find out where he is and help him out. And there's no helping him. He's now on track for public conservatorship. Thank God. Thank God.
Right, and we're not saying it serves its purpose for sure.
That's right. I'd like to know where it's serving its purpose and where it needs to be improved, and whether there are the issues that need to be addressed first. So I think if we took things. Scott, I don't know who. Somebody's going to help us figure this out because we don't have a lot of resources ourselves. But we're small but mighty.
I think what you'd like to do is go to our website, coalition4rights.com. On the top right, there's a link for Libertas News. One of the links on there is Alameda County. You'll go in there and you'll have several cases. It goes through the case right to court documents. So we're accusing LAS of perjury. We go right through that article. You can go to the court document itself and read the court document and determine yourself whether LAS is committing perjury. So, we do that all up and down the state, whether it be Alameda County, Santa Barbara County, Monterey County. That's what we do. I have no interest. My case was in San Bernardino County, Southern California. Okay. One of the things the courts do, it says the conservator has to be local. We were not conservator of my in-law because we lived in the Bay Area. They appointed someone that lived closer that was estranged from the family. In Alameda County, that doesn't matter. The conservator for Ellen Ferris lives and works in Indian Springs. Last time I looked, that's about 500 miles away, and it's very hard to get to. So it's not even the same. It's all documented. Go to the website, multiple cases.
Well, even, as an attorney and still a relatively smart old lady, it's hard for me as an individual to go and look at these things and pass judgment. But I think as a body, if we can start to compile information in a systematic way that we can deal with as a group, I think it would be helpful to all of us and ultimately helpful to elders.
And feel free to Google and look online in regards to it. You will see a lot of information.
My grandchildren just put a 2-hour limit on my iPhone, and they put a passcode on it. They said, "Grandma, you're addicted."
Oh, good. All right.
No, we're not out of time.
We're not out of time yet? We're okay?
No.
Okay.
No. Go ahead.
Okay.
Ask your question.
I just wanted to drill down a little bit. What are the requirements or qualifications to be a conservator, and who's vetting these people? Who says you are allowed to be a conservator?
Right. You can explain the fiduciary.
There are no requirements whatsoever to be a conservator. You can be a complete stranger to the family. I can come and become a conservator for any one of you by filing a petition in the court. And better yet, just like the full movie shows, I change your mailing address before the proof of service goes out, so you never even know it. One of the cases that's documented in Monterey County, right down to court documents, is Marguerite, I don't remember the last name, sorry, Patty Conklin's the daughter. She ended up doing 7 years. The mistake they made was mom got conserved by the public guardian. Public guardian was up in the Bay Area with the only copy of the conservatorship papers, admitted that they were not even served on the family. Mom called daughter up that evening, said, "Come to get me home. I'm tired. I'm rehabbed. If you don't come get me, I'm going to hire a taxi." That night, armed police officers went into the house and got her because she did it under conservatorship. Nobody knew they were conservative, either party. Took her away 7 years, just got out this year. There are zero requirements to become a conservator.
And I know being an attorney, you're the credibility and but there's a judge out of Arizona, and I can send his article to you. He's passed away of cancer, but he definitely explains how the system went wrong, what happened, what changed, and why it's become a predatory, greedy type of system.
Is he talking about I want to know about the California system specifically, though.
Yeah, well, he's in Arizona,
yeah,
but
but I'd like that kind of. I'm looking for that kind of information,
and one of the problems with California is a temporary conservatorship is limited to 30 days because it's like a police officer arresting a person. Temporary happens with no evidence. The problem is the court goes 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 3 years until the conservative dies, and you never have your trial. You never have the evidence. They take away your rights without having your day in court. So it would be like the officer arresting someone for shoplifting, putting him in jail, and then just never coming back for his day in court. The system in California is essentially the same as everywhere else. It's one of the better ones. I tell anybody that if the courts would follow the written probate court, I would never have formed CEDAR. I would not have been spending the last 9 years of my life doing this. The problem is we don't follow what's there because there's no penalty, there's no checks and balances. The court-appointed attorney is supposed to be the person representing the conservatee, but what he wants is billable hours. In my case, if we want to get a little personal in San Bernardino County, their website to this day says the court-appointed attorney charges $65 an hour. San Francisco, it's $125 an hour. They limit you. They call it the probate volunteer panel, which is where these probate courts panels attorneys come from. We got to pay $725 an hour to the court-appointed attorney, and we thought because the website said 65, that was a pretty good thing to challenge. We challenged that thing at the cost of $80,000, and the court goes, we don't care what our website says. We've always allowed them to charge what they want, and that's what we're going to award. They're going to get paid the $725 an hour regardless of what our website says. And the court now, 5 years later, still has not changed their website.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Anything? All right. I just wanted to share this real quick, Ms. Datmeyer. It's a Healthy Living Festival that's going to come up for the elderly. Are you guys aware of that? Okay. Okay, good. All right. Yeah. September 19th. Yeah.
That's,
this one is
United
this is the United Seniors of Oakland of Alameda County. Nate Miley's, and Mary.
Talking about Allen Temple.
All right.
Yeah.
Any more questions? But I have information. Richard does. We can always be contacted, and if you can help us and support us, and speak to me, give me your information. We'll keep you in the loop.
Well, we certainly thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
With us, and
thank you for having us.
I'm asking the commission to, if possible, come on the 29th of August at the West Oakland Center and support this organization. Thank you so much.
All right,
Gina.
thank you. And write your politicians, once you get your answers and you're clear on what's going on. Nancy O'Malley, DA, she needs to hear from you. Thank you.
I did call the mayor's office and Nancy O'Malley and invited them today, so I didn't get a return. They probably have, I know the mayor's schedule is kind of hectic right now.
All right, thank you, Ms. Statmeyer,
Okay, thank you.
and everyone committee.